Stop everything! You've been programmed to believe that the 19th century British Empire was an unbeatable global server. You've been told that industrial hardware always deletes traditional warriors. Wrong. In January 1879, under the shadow of a sphinx-shaped mountain called Isandlwana, the British military hit a fatal exception error that they never saw coming. What happened wasn't just a battle. It was a total system format. We are talking about 20,000 Zulu high-output nodes going up against the Victorian-Superpower-Firewall and wiping the drive. Today, we are exposing the Cetshwayo Synergy, the raw, unfiltered, mechanical discipline that turned the British Empire's hardware superiority into static noise. The INITIalization, the IMPI hardware upgrade. To understand the crash, you have to understand the hardware. The Zulu warriors weren't primitive. They were high-frequency biological-combatants. Under the Shaka-Legacy-Protocol, every Zulu user node was formatted for high-speed mobility. They didn't use sandals. They hardened their feet into all-terrain tires, capable of running 50 miles a day and initializing an attack immediately. Their primary weapon wasn't a long-distance projectile. It was the Iklwa, a short, heavy stabbing spear designed for zero-latency close-quarter-deletion. While the British relied on the bandwidth of their rifles, the Zulu relied on kinetic-impact and raw processing speed. They were a standing army server that was always online and ready to execute. The Redcoat glitch, Chelmsford and the hubris buffer. Enter Lord Chelmsford, the admin of the British invasion. He arrived in Zululand with a database of Martini Henry rifles, rockets, and imperial arrogance. He thought he could click and drag his way to the Zulu capital. But he made a critical configuration error. He partitioned his force, leading half his troops away to hunt a phantom Zulu signal, leaving the base camp at Isandlwana unfortified. No trenches, no firewall of wagons. He ignored the local data that said the Zulu were close by. He left his main server wide open for a deep system infiltration. The Buffalo Horns. Algorithm. The ultimate encirclement. On the morning of January 22nd, the British censors finally picked up the signal. 20,000 Zulu warriors were initialized and sitting in a valley just miles away. They didn't wait for a command packet. They booted up and charged. They used the Impondo Zankomo, the Buffalo Horns algorithm. The chest, the main force, engaged the British front, while the horns, the fast-moving flanks, circled around to close the port from behind. This was a double envelopment logic that made escape calculations impossible for the Redcoats. It was a physical enclosure that throttled the British line of sight. The kinetic crash, the ammo box latency error. As the Zulu nodes swarmed the camp, the British hardware began to lag. The Martini Henry rifles were high output, but they started overheating. Even worse, a logistical bug occurred. The ammunition was stored in heavy-duty crates with complex screw logic. The supply admins refused to break the safety protocol, causing a data flow bottleneck. Soldiers were running empty while the resource nodes were sitting on piles of locked bullets. The fire rate dropped. The Zulu firewall breach was successful, and the hand-to-hand overwrite began. The Iklwa spears started deleting British user files at a rate the Empire had never experienced in Africa. The Total Format, The Fall of the Victorian Superserver. By mid-afternoon, the Isandlwana server was offline. Out of 1,800 British and colonial nodes, over 1,300 were permanently deleted. It was the greatest system crash in the history of the British Army against a non-industrialized force. When the news uploaded to London, it triggered a political shockwave that crashed the current admin government. The Zulu success proved that superior hardware means nothing if your strategy has a backdoor and your enemy has superior discipline. The world wants you to believe that tech is the only thing that matters, but Isandlwana wants you to be chaotically optimized. Are you going to rely on your slow-moving tools, or are you going to initialize the buffalo horns mindset in your own life? Smash that subscribe node, like this data dump, and tell us in the comments, was this a genius hack by the Zulu or a fatal user error by the British?